Too big, just sit on it, the rancher said calmly, right before she realized what was under her. Emma took a deep breath as she stepped outside the small cabin she was staying in for the summer. The air smelled fresh and earthy, mixed with the faint scent of hay and animals. For a city girl like her, every sound and every sight on the ranch was new and exciting. Birds sang cheerfully in the trees, and somewhere in the distance, the low hum of cattle added a soothing rhythm to the morning. Emma's uncle, Joe, was already outside, moving about with a calm, steady pace that only came from years of working the land. His wide-brimmed hat shaded his face, but she could see the lines on his skin that told stories of long days under the sun. He waved at her as she walked toward him, holding a small bucket of feed. "Morning, Emma." "Ready for your first real task?" he asked, his voice deep and steady, carrying a warmth that made her feel welcome. Emma nodded eagerly. "Yes, Uncle Joe, I'm ready. What do I do first?" he smiled, handing her the bucket. "We'll start with the chickens. They get hungry early. You just scatter the feed and make sure they're all accounted for. After that, we'll move to the barn." Emma followed his directions carefully, stepping lightly on the soft ground to avoid startling the birds. The chickens clucked and pecked at the feed, and a few curious chicks followed her tiny footsteps, chirping loudly. She laughed as one of the little yellow chicks ran straight into her boot, making her jump slightly. Uncle Joe chuckled from a distance, shaking his head. "Don't worry, they're harmless," he said. "They'll grow fast and strong if you treat them well." After finishing with the chickens, they moved toward the barn. The smell of hay grew stronger, and the sound of cattle mooing echoed in the distance. Emma's heart beat a little faster. She had seen barns before in movies and books, but being in a real one was something entirely different. The wooden beams were rough under her hands as she touched them, and the faint creak of the old barn doors made the place feel alive with history. Uncle Joe guided her to the large hay bales stacked neatly along one side of the barn. "These are the big ones," he said. "You'll need to be careful around them. Some are stable and some, well, let's just say you need to pay attention." Emma nodded, looking up at the towering piles of hay. They were enormous, much bigger than she had imagined. The top bales seemed almost to touch the ceiling. She felt a thrill mixed with nervousness. Handling hay seemed simple enough, but she could sense the importance of caution here. As she moved closer, she noticed the faint rustling coming from one of the lower bales. She paused, her curiosity piqued. "Uncle Joe, did you hear that?" she asked softly. He glanced at her calmly, without alarm. "It's probably just the wind moving the hay, or maybe a small critter hiding inside. Nothing dangerous, but be careful where you step." Emma took a deep breath and nodded, trying to steady her nerves. She had always loved animals, and the thought of small creatures hiding in the hay made her both excited and anxious. Slowly, she began to examine the bales more closely, running her hands over the rough surfaces and feeling the different textures of hay. Some were soft and fragrant, while others were dry and brittle, cracking slightly under her touch. The barn was quiet except for the soft sounds of animals and the occasional creak of the wooden floor. Emma could hear her own breathing as she moved, and for a moment, she felt completely alone in this vast, mysterious place. But the calm presence of her uncle nearby reminded her that she was safe. "Why are some of the bales so big?" she asked, genuinely curious. Uncle Joe chuckled. "Well, that's how we store them to last through the season. The bigger they are, the longer they can keep the animals fed. But you have to respect their size. A bale that big can be tricky if it's not stable. That's why I told you to be careful." Emma nodded thoughtfully, imagining what it would be like if a bale were to tip over. She shook the thought away quickly, not wanting to scare herself. Instead, she focused on the feeling of accomplishment that came with learning something new. Every task she completed made her feel more connected to the ranch and to the life her uncle led every day. After a while, Uncle Joe decided it was time for a break. He led Emma outside to the porch, where a small table was set with a thermos of iced tea and a plate of fresh bread. The view from the porch was breathtaking. Rolling fields stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with cows grazing lazily under the morning sun. Emma sipped the tea and watched the animals, feeling a sense of peace she had never experienced in the city. "This place, it's amazing," she said softly, almost to herself. Her uncle smiled. "It has its challenges, sure, but it teaches you a lot. Patience, hard work, respect for nature, and a little caution, too." Emma nodded, thinking back to the hay bales and the subtle warning in his words. She realized that even though everything seemed calm and simple, there was a rhythm and a logic to life on the ranch that required attention and care. Every animal, every bale of hay, every chore had its place and its time. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Emma felt a mix of excitement and anticipation. She knew that the days ahead would be full of learning, surprises, and perhaps a few challenges she had yet to imagine. But for now, she was content to be here, in this wide-open space, learning from someone who had lived a life she could only dream of experiencing. Little did she know, the calm morning and simple tasks were just the beginning. Something unexpected was waiting for her, hidden in plain sight among the towering hay bales. A moment that would surprise her, teach her a lesson, and become a story she would never forget. For now, though, she simply smiled, ready to face whatever the ranch had in store, trusting her uncle's guidance and learning the rhythms of a life far different from her own. After breakfast, Uncle Joe motioned for Emma to follow him back toward the barn. The sun was now higher in the sky, casting warm light across the fields. Emma felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had spent the morning learning the basics, but something in her chest told her that the real adventure of ranch life was just beginning. "All right, Emma," Uncle Joe said, his tone calm and steady. "It's time you learned a bit more about the hay bales and how we handle them. Not all of them are the same. Some are perfectly safe and some, well, you need to treat them carefully." Emma nodded, trying to hide the nervous flutter in her stomach. She had seen the enormous hay bales before, but the idea that some could be tricky made her feel a little wary. She followed him as they walked past the grazing cows, listening to the soft crunch of hay under their feet. The barn loomed ahead, its wooden doors slightly ajar, inviting yet mysterious. As they stepped inside, the familiar scent of hay greeted her again, stronger now. The rustling she had heard earlier seemed louder, more alive. She looked around, noticing how the sun's rays streamed through the cracks in the walls, illuminating dust particles that danced in the light. Everything about the barn felt vivid, alive, and slightly magical. Uncle Joe led her toward a particularly large hay bale stacked near the corner of the barn. "This one here," he said, pointing with a careful hand, "is a bit special. You'll need to pay attention if you're going to be around it. Just remember, move slowly, don't panic, and always stay aware of your surroundings." Emma stared at the bale. It was enormous, taller than she was and wide enough that she couldn't wrap her arms around it even if she tried. She felt a twinge of nervousness but also a spark of curiosity. She wanted to know why her uncle had singled this one out, why he seemed so calm yet serious at the same time. "Why is this one different from the others?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Uncle Joe smiled faintly. "It's not really dangerous, but it's home to a few surprises sometimes. Nothing harmful, I promise, but you need to approach it with care. Always treat hay bales with respect. They're more than just food for the animals. Sometimes they're a little world of their own." Emma's curiosity grew. She imagined tiny creatures hiding within the layers of hay, peeking out at the barn and perhaps playing among the dry stalks. Her heart beat a little faster and she felt a surge of excitement. She had always loved animals and surprises, and this seemed like the perfect mix of both. "Okay, I'll be careful," she said, taking a small step closer to the bale. Her hands brushed against the rough hay and tiny particles floated into the air, tickling her nose. She sneezed softly and laughed. "Wow, it's even dustier than I thought." "See," Uncle Joe said with a chuckle. "That's why I warned you. Always pay attention. There's more going on in a barn than you might think at first glance." Emma crouched slightly, examining the base of the bale. She noticed movement again, a subtle rustling that made her eyes widen. She froze, holding her breath. Her uncle remained calm, his presence steadying her. "It's okay, Emma, just stay calm," he said softly. "Whatever it is, it won't hurt you if you move slowly and don't make sudden moves." Emma nodded, taking a deep breath. She remembered the lessons she had learned in the morning: patience, careful observation, and respect for the animals and the environment around her. She took another step closer and gently touched the side of the bale. The rustling grew slightly louder and she felt a faint vibration under her fingers. Her mind raced. Could it be a small animal, a mouse, a bird that had made its nest here? The possibilities swirled in her head, making her heart pound with a mix of fear and excitement. She glanced at her uncle, who nodded encouragingly. "You can check it, Emma. Just remember to stay calm and don't panic." Emma swallowed hard and with careful hands began to peel back some of the loose hay on the side of the bale. She moved slowly, her fingers brushing against soft, warm shapes beneath the surface. A small squeak reached her ears and she froze again. Her pulse quickened. She was so close to discovering whatever was hiding there, yet she was also nervous about what she might find. Suddenly, a tiny head peeked out from under the hay. Emma gasped softly, her hands trembling slightly. It was a small creature, just as she had imagined, with bright eyes and tiny paws. She smiled with relief and delight. The little one looked at her curiously, unafraid, as if it had been waiting for someone gentle enough to approach. Her uncle chuckled softly from behind her. "See, nothing to worry about, just a little surprise from nature." Emma gently lifted the hay to reveal more small creatures nestled inside. They were tiny kittens, their fur soft and warm, huddled together for comfort and safety. Emma couldn't help but laugh softly, her initial fear melting into joy. She had never seen anything so delicate and fragile in her life. "They're so small and adorable," she whispered. "How did they get here?" "They probably wandered in and found this bale to keep safe," Uncle Joe explained. "Hay bales are perfect little hiding spots for young animals. They feel secure, warm, and protected." Emma carefully sat down on a nearby bale, giving herself a better view. She watched the kittens explore their surroundings, their tiny paws kneading at the hay. Each movement was careful yet curious, reminding her of the careful balance of life on the ranch. Every action, every movement had to be gentle, respectful, and mindful. As she observed them, Emma felt a deep sense of connection to the ranch and its creatures. She realized that ranch life wasn't just about chores and animals. It was about understanding, patience, and attention to the small details that could make a big difference. A simple hay bale, she thought, could hold a world of surprises if one looked closely enough. Uncle Joe guided her through the process of moving the kittens gently to a safe corner of the barn. He showed her how to handle them with care, how to keep them warm, and how to make them feel secure. Emma listened intently, soaking in every word. She felt proud of herself for being careful, for following instructions, and for discovering something truly special. After the kittens were settled, Uncle Joe smiled at her. "You did well today, Emma. Remember, ranch life is full of surprises. Some are exciting, some challenging, but all teach you something valuable." Emma nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and happiness. She had faced her fear, stayed calm, and discovered a little secret of the ranch that made her heart swell with joy. She realized that life on the ranch was unpredictable, but that unpredictability was what made it beautiful. As the afternoon sun streamed through the barn windows, Emma sat quietly, watching the kittens play. The barn was filled with warmth, light, and the soft sounds of life. She felt a sense of peace, knowing that she had handled the situation well and learned something important about patience, observation, and respect for all creatures. Little did she know, this was only the beginning. The hay bale had more surprises in store, and the lessons of the ranch were far from over. Emma felt a thrill of anticipation, eager to learn, explore, and experience everything that awaited her in this vast, living world of fields, animals, and unexpected discoveries. Emma couldn't help but feel a rush of excitement as she looked at the towering hay bale once more. The kittens were now safely nestled in the corner of the barn, their tiny paws kneading at the hay and their soft mews filling the quiet space. Emma had handled the first surprise of the morning well, and her confidence had grown. She felt braver now, ready to explore more, even if it meant approaching the large, mysterious bale her uncle had warned her about. Uncle Joe watched her with a calm smile. "If you're ready, Emma, you can try climbing on the big one. Just remember what I told you. Move slowly, stay balanced, and don't panic." Emma nodded, taking a deep breath. Her heart beat faster, a mixture of excitement and nervousness swirling inside her. She approached the base of the massive bale, feeling the rough texture of the hay beneath her fingers. The sunlight streamed in through the barn's wooden slats, casting stripes of light and shadow across the floor, making the place feel alive and full of mystery. She planted her feet carefully, finding stable spots to step on, and began to climb. The hay crunched softly under her weight, a sound that made her pause for a moment. Every movement had to be deliberate. One wrong step could send her sliding or off balance. She remembered her uncle's words, repeating them quietly to herself. "Move slowly, stay calm, don't panic." As she climbed higher, the barn seemed to grow quieter, almost as if it were holding its breath along with her. The air smelled of hay, warm and slightly sweet, with a faint undertone of the animals she had passed earlier. Emma could hear her own heartbeat, steady but quickened by the anticipation. Finally, she reached a comfortable spot near the top of the bale. She sat down carefully, testing the surface beneath her. It felt surprisingly firm, though slightly uneven. She exhaled slowly, feeling a sense of accomplishment. She had climbed higher than she had ever imagined she could, and the view from up here was breathtaking. She could see the entire barn from this vantage point. The scattered hay, the kittens in the corner, the sunlight filtering through the cracks, and the distant fields glowing in the afternoon sun. "Not bad for your first climb," Uncle Joe said from below, his calm voice steadying her nerves. "Take your time and enjoy it, but keep in mind there's more than meets the eye." Emma's curiosity grew. "More than meets the eye?" she asked, glancing down at the base of the bale. Her uncle chuckled softly. "You'll see soon enough. Just stay where you are for a moment and listen. Sometimes the quietest places hide the biggest surprises." Emma shifted slightly, feeling the hay compress under her weight. That was when she noticed a subtle movement beneath her, a faint rustling, softer than the sound of the kittens but distinct enough to catch her attention. Her heart skipped a beat. She froze, unsure of what she might find. The bale beneath her wasn't just a pile of hay anymore. It seemed alive, holding secrets she was about to uncover. Slowly, she leaned forward, peering down. At first, she saw only layers of hay, tightly packed and golden in the afternoon light. But then something moved again, a tiny, delicate shape pushing against the hay. Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had seen small creatures before, but this felt different. It was larger than a kitten, softer than she expected, and completely hidden from view until now. Her mind raced. Could it be a baby animal, a hidden nest? She tried to remember her uncle's instructions. Stay calm, don't panic. She knew that sudden movements could startle whatever was under her, and she wanted to be careful. Slowly, she shifted her weight slightly to get a better look. Then, to her amazement, she saw it. A small family of newborn lambs, nestled together and hiding beneath the hay. Their tiny bodies were warm, soft, and fragile, and they looked up at her with curious, trusting eyes. Emma gasped softly, a mixture of surprise and awe flooding through her. She had never expected to find something so precious and hidden right under her feet. "They're beautiful," she whispered, reaching out gently but stopping short of touching them. She didn't want to disturb their resting place. The lambs snuggled closer together, their tiny bodies trembling slightly but otherwise calm. Emma realized why her uncle had warned her to move carefully. This was a delicate moment, one that required patience and respect. Uncle Joe's voice came softly from below. "See, I told you to be careful. They're harmless, but they need calm and gentle hands. You're doing well, Emma. Just stay steady." Emma nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and responsibility. She couldn't believe her luck. Discovering a hidden family of lambs was more than she could have imagined. She felt a wave of protectiveness toward them, wanting to ensure they remained safe. She knew that even a slight mistake could scare them or cause them harm, and she was determined to prevent that. For several minutes, Emma simply sat quietly, observing the lambs and watching their tiny movements. She noticed how they huddled together, seeking warmth and comfort from each other. Their little breaths were soft but steady, and she could hear the faint rustle of the hay around them. Each sound, each movement, made her feel more connected to the barn and to the life within it. Slowly, she began to adjust her position, shifting slightly to get a better view without disturbing the lambs. Her heart was still racing, but she reminded herself to stay calm, just as her uncle had taught her. She realized that patience was just as important as curiosity. Rushing in could ruin the moment, but careful observation allowed her to witness something truly special. After a few more minutes, Uncle Joe guided her through the process of carefully lifting a small section of hay to reveal more of the lambs. Emma followed his instructions, moving slowly and deliberately. She marveled at their tiny legs, soft ears, and trusting eyes. The experience was both humbling and exhilarating, a rare glimpse into the quiet, hidden life of the barn. Emma gently helped her uncle shift the lambs to a safe corner of the barn, ensuring they were comfortable and secure. She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and pride. She had faced her fear, stayed calm, and discovered something incredible. The barn, which had seemed ordinary at first, was now a place of wonder and life, filled with hidden surprises waiting to be noticed. As she settled back onto the hay bale, Emma reflected on the lesson she had learned. Life on the ranch was unpredictable, full of challenges and hidden moments of beauty. Patience, observation, and respect were essential, and even something as simple as a hay bale could hold unexpected treasures. The afternoon sun continued to shine through the barn, warming Emma's face and casting a golden glow over the scene. She felt a sense of peace and satisfaction, knowing that she had handled the situation well and that the lambs were safe. She also felt a growing bond with her uncle, who had guided her patiently and calmly through the experience. Emma realized that this moment would stay with her forever. The thrill of discovery, the quiet joy of witnessing life in its fragile form, and the pride of handling it responsibly had left a lasting impression. She knew that the ranch held many more surprises, each with its own lessons and stories, and she was eager to face them with the same patience and care she had shown today. As she finally climbed down from the hay bale, Emma felt a mixture of relief, excitement, and anticipation. The barn, once a simple place of work and chores, had transformed into a world of hidden wonders, and she was ready to explore it further. The summer on the ranch promised more adventures, more lessons, and more moments of awe, and Emma couldn't wait to experience every single one. Emma's heart was still racing from the excitement of discovering the hidden lambs beneath the hay bale. The warmth of the barn, the sunlight streaming through the wooden slats, and the soft movements of the tiny animals created a moment she would never forget. She could hardly believe how fragile and delicate the little creatures were. At the same time, she felt a deep sense of responsibility. This was not a situation to be rushed or taken lightly. The lambs were entirely dependent on her and Uncle Joe's calm guidance. Uncle Joe stepped closer, his steady hands guiding her gently. "All right, Emma, now we need to move them to a safer spot. They're fine here for a short time, but this corner of the barn is a bit exposed. Let's get them somewhere more secure." Emma nodded, trying to steady her breathing. She had watched the kittens and lambs for a while, learning their rhythms, understanding their movements, and noticing the smallest signs of fear or curiosity. She was careful not to startle them as she reached toward the first lamb. Its tiny body trembled slightly as she lifted it with gentle hands. Every movement was slow and deliberate, as if she were handling something much more fragile than she had ever imagined. The other lambs, sensing motion nearby, began to stir. Emma froze, unsure if she should continue or wait. Uncle Joe's calm voice reassured her. "Go slowly. They'll follow your lead. Stay steady." Emma exhaled and continued, her movements precise and careful. She carried one lamb at a time, placing them in a safer corner filled with soft hay, where they could rest without fear of falling or being stepped on. Each time she moved a lamb, her confidence grew, and she began to notice the subtle patterns in their behavior, the way their ears twitched, the soft whimpers that indicated discomfort, and the tiny paws that pressed against her hands seeking reassurance. The kittens, curious and playful, began to investigate the area around the lambs. Emma laughed softly at their antics, but she quickly realized that mixing the animals too soon could be stressful for them all. She gently shooed the kittens back to their corner, making sure they were safe, but also giving the lambs the space they needed. The barn was alive with small sounds, the soft bleating of the lambs, the tiny mews of the kittens, and the gentle rustling of hay as Emma worked. Hours seemed to pass as she carefully monitored and tended to the animals. Emma's initial nervousness had transformed into a focused calm. She marveled at how attentive one had to be to ensure that every living creature was safe and comfortable. Her uncle stood nearby, guiding her silently, occasionally offering advice in his quiet, steady voice. "You're doing really well, Emma," he said softly. "Patience is everything here. Every animal, every situation has its rhythm. Once you learn to read it, things become easier." Emma nodded, feeling a sense of pride. She had never thought of herself as particularly patient, but now she realized that careful observation and calmness could achieve what brute force or rush never could. The barn, once intimidating and mysterious, had become a place of learning and discovery. As the afternoon wore on, Emma noticed that one of the lambs was having trouble standing. Its tiny legs wobbled, and it kept collapsing back into the hay. She knelt beside it, gently supporting its fragile body. Uncle Joe joined her, demonstrating how to help the lamb regain balance without causing it distress. Together, they guided the lamb, speaking softly to reassure it. Gradually, the little creature managed to stand on its own, taking small, tentative steps before finding its strength. Emma felt a wave of relief and joy. This was exactly why her uncle had emphasized calm and careful handling. A sudden movement or loud noise could have frightened the lamb, but patience had allowed it to find its footing safely. She watched as the other lambs, now more confident, began to explore their new corner of the barn, their tiny hooves softly pressing against the hay. While the lambs adjusted, Emma focused on tidying the area around them. She gathered loose hay, stacked it neatly, and ensured that nothing could fall or cause harm. Every action was deliberate, every movement thoughtful. It was hard work, but Emma felt a deep satisfaction in creating a safe, secure environment for the animals. Uncle Joe watched her silently for a while, then spoke. "You know, Emma, life on a ranch is full of moments like this. Sometimes it's exciting, sometimes challenging, and sometimes it's just a matter of careful observation. But each moment teaches you something valuable. Today, you've learned patience, responsibility, and respect for life in its smallest forms." Emma smiled, feeling the weight of his words. She realized that the lessons of the ranch went far beyond chores or simple tasks. They were about understanding the delicate balance of life, the importance of calmness under pressure, and the joy of discovering the small, hidden wonders that often went unnoticed. The kittens, having settled back into their corner, now approached the lambs cautiously, sniffing and observing without causing disturbance. Emma chuckled softly, appreciating how the animals were learning from each other. She had read about such interactions before, but seeing them firsthand was far more fascinating. Hours passed and the barn slowly grew quiet. The afternoon light softened, casting warm, golden rays through the wooden slats. Emma sat back on the hay bale, exhausted but happy. Her arms ached slightly from carrying the lambs, and her hands were coated in a fine layer of hay dust, but she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced her fears, acted responsibly, and helped create a safe space for the animals. Uncle Joe joined her on the bale, leaning back against the stack. "You did well today, Emma," he said, his voice calm but proud. "Most people would have panicked, but you stayed steady. That's what counts." Emma smiled, feeling a warm glow of pride and accomplishment. She realized that ranch life was not just about hard work or physical strength. It was about observation, empathy, and careful attention to every small detail. She had learned a valuable lesson today, one that she knew would stay with her long after the summer ended. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the barn, Emma took one last look at the lambs and kittens. They were now safe, comfortable, and beginning to settle down for the evening. She felt a wave of gratitude for the experience, for her uncle's guidance, and for the opportunity to witness life in its delicate, beautiful form. The barn was no longer just a place of work. It had become a world full of surprises, challenges, and lessons. Emma understood that patience, calmness, and respect were the keys to navigating this world successfully. And more importantly, she realized that even the smallest creatures could teach the biggest lessons. As she finally left the barn with her uncle, Emma felt a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. She knew that the day had changed her, giving her a new perspective on life, responsibility, and the quiet joys of the ranch. Every step she took across the soft, sunlit fields was a reminder that patience, care, and observation could turn even a chaotic moment into a triumph of understanding and compassion. The day ended with a quiet sense of achievement. Emma had faced the unexpected, embraced the challenge, and learned to navigate it with calmness and empathy. She knew that more adventures awaited her in the coming days, but for now, she was content to reflect on the lessons of patience, care, and the hidden wonders of the ranch. And as she lay in her small cabin that night, listening to the gentle sounds of the animals outside, Emma knew she had become a little more connected to the land, the animals, and the life her uncle had so patiently shared with her. She drifted off to sleep with a smile on her face, eager for the surprises and lessons that tomorrow would bring. The morning sun spilled over the fields in golden waves, painting the ranch with a gentle warmth. Emma awoke in her small cabin feeling rested, but still buzzing with the memories of the previous day. The excitement of discovering the hidden lambs and carefully tending to them still lingered in her mind. She stretched and smiled, knowing that today would bring more lessons, more adventures, and perhaps even more surprises. She quickly dressed and made her way outside, the fresh morning air filling her lungs. The sounds of the ranch greeted her like an old friend, the low mooing of cows, the soft clucking of chickens, and the occasional chirp of birds perched in the nearby trees. Every sound reminded her that the ranch was alive, and she was now a part of its rhythm. Uncle Joe was already at the barn, moving with his usual calm and steady pace. "Morning, Emma," he called, his voice warm and reassuring. "Ready for another day?" Emma nodded eagerly. "Yes, Uncle Joe, I can't wait to see what's next." He chuckled softly. "Patience, Emma." Every day teaches something new. Today, we'll check on the lambs and kittens and make sure they're healthy and comfortable. Then, I have a little task that will test your observation skills." Emma followed him, feeling a sense of pride. She had already learned so much about the barn, the animals, and the importance of calm and careful handling. Yet, she felt that there was still so much more to understand. As they approached the barn, she noticed how the sunlight illuminated the hay bales, casting long shadows that danced across the floor. The kittens were already awake, stretching and mewing softly, while the lambs huddled together, their tiny legs wobbling as they took tentative steps around their corner. Emma knelt beside them, gently brushing her fingers over their soft fur. She remembered how nervous she had been the day before, and she smiled at how much she had grown in such a short time. The lambs and kittens seemed to recognize her presence now, trusting her and feeling safe under her careful watch. The bond she had formed with these tiny creatures filled her with a warm sense of accomplishment and joy. After ensuring that the lambs and kittens were secure and comfortable, Uncle Joe handed her a small notebook. "I want you to take note of everything you observe today," he said. "Not just the obvious things, but the small details, their behavior, movements, and even little sounds. You'll find that paying attention to these details makes you a better caretaker and observer." Emma nodded eagerly, accepting the notebook. She began jotting down notes carefully, observing the way the lambs bleated softly when they were excited, how they nuzzled each other for comfort, and how the kittens curiously explored their surroundings while maintaining a safe distance. Each detail seemed small, but together they painted a picture of life in the barn, a delicate balance of care, attention, and respect. Hours passed quickly as Emma recorded her observations and assisted her uncle with small chores around the barn. She stacked hay carefully, swept the floors, and even helped refill the water troughs for the animals. Each task was simple yet meaningful, reinforcing the lessons she had learned about responsibility, patience, and attention to detail. The barn, once a place of mystery and nervous anticipation, had become a space of learning, wonder, and connection. At one point, a gust of wind blew through the open barn doors, rustling the hay and causing a few kittens to dart back into their corner. Emma froze, worried that she might have startled them, but Uncle Joe placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "It's okay, Emma. Sometimes surprises happen, but staying calm and observing carefully keeps everyone safe." Emma exhaled slowly, realizing that her uncle's words were not just about handling animals, they were about life itself. Challenges, unexpected moments, and surprises were inevitable, but remaining calm, observant, and patient allowed one to navigate them successfully. The barn had become a lesson in mindfulness, empathy, and resilience, and Emma felt herself growing stronger with each passing hour. By midday, Emma had developed a rhythm. She moved gracefully among the animals, adjusting hay, comforting the lambs, and keeping the kittens engaged without overwhelming them. She noticed patterns she had missed before, which lambs preferred to stay close to each other, which kittens were bolder and more curious, and how small noises or movements could influence the behavior of all the animals. Every detail mattered, and Emma found joy in noticing and responding thoughtfully. After a brief lunch break, Uncle Joe had another task for her. "I want you to prepare a small section of the barn for the evening," he said. "You'll need to arrange hay, create comfortable bedding for the lambs and kittens, and ensure everything is secure before nightfall. Think of it as creating a little sanctuary." Emma's eyes lit up with determination. She worked meticulously, stacking hay bales to create protective walls, laying down soft layers for bedding, and ensuring there were safe spaces for the animals to move freely. She imagined herself as the guardian of this small world, responsible for every tiny creature within it. The task was challenging, but it brought her a deep sense of satisfaction. She realized that responsibility was not burdensome when it came with care, attention, and love. As evening approached, the barn was transformed. Soft hay lined the corners, creating cozy beds for the lambs and kittens. Loose strands were cleared away to prevent accidents, and every small detail had been attended to. Emma stepped back, admiring her work. The animals were comfortable, calm, and secure, and she felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had taken a chaotic and potentially risky situation and turned it into something safe, organized, and nurturing. Uncle Joe watched her quietly, a proud smile on his face. "You've done exceptionally well today, Emma," he said. "Not only have you handled the surprises and challenges, but you've done it with care, patience, and thoughtfulness. That's what makes a true caretaker." Emma felt her cheeks flush with pride. She had learned so much, not just about the barn, the animals, or the routines of ranch life, but about herself. She had discovered patience she didn't know she had, confidence in her ability to handle unexpected situations, and a deep empathy for life in all its forms. The barn, the hay bales, and the animals had taught her lessons she would carry with her long after the summer ended. As the sun set, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink, Emma sat quietly on the porch outside the barn. She watched the lambs and kittens play softly in their designated corners, their small movements a reminder of the beauty and fragility of life. The warmth of the day lingered in the air, and Emma felt a profound sense of peace. She reflected on the journey she had experienced over the past few days, the nervousness, the surprises, the moments of fear, and the triumphs of patience and care. She thought about her uncle's calm demeanor and steady guidance. It wasn't just about giving instructions. It was about teaching her to observe, to respect, and to act thoughtfully. Emma realized that these lessons were about more than ranch life. They were about life itself. Challenges would come, surprises would happen, and unexpected moments would arise. But the ability to stay calm, patient, and mindful could turn any moment into an opportunity for learning and growth. As the evening shadows grew longer, Emma felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had faced her fears, discovered hidden wonders, and learned the importance of calmness, observation, and empathy. The ranch had given her more than just a summer experience. It had given her confidence, resilience, and a connection to life she had never felt before. Finally, as stars began to twinkle in the clear night sky, Emma returned to her cabin. She paused for a moment, listening to the gentle sounds of the ranch, the soft bleating of the lambs, the quiet mews of the kittens, and the distant rustling of trees in the night breeze. She smiled, knowing that she had become a part of this world, even if only for a short time. Before falling asleep, Emma thought back to the first morning when she had arrived, nervous and unsure. She remembered the towering hay bales, the cryptic warning from her uncle, and the hidden surprises that had awaited her. She realized that every step of her journey had taught her something invaluable, lessons of care, patience, and respect that went far beyond the barn. And as she drifted off to sleep, Emma knew that the memories of the lambs, the kittens, and the quiet, golden barn would stay with her forever. She had learned to face the unexpected with calmness, to handle challenges with care, and to find joy in the small, hidden wonders of life. The summer on the ranch had transformed her, leaving her wiser, more confident, and more connected to the world around her. It had been a summer of surprises, growth, and discovery, a summer she would never forget.